The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. This is Jesse Heller, the Marketing Director at Faye Business Systems Group. You're joining our Sugar Boot Camp. Today we've got Jake Budekoffer. He's our account executive over here at FayeBSG. He's going to be taking us through some cool training and tips and tricks in sugar. And we're also happy to have Scott Alder. He's from Act On. He's going to be showing us a little bit of the Act On integration in sugar and some other cool things related to beefing up your marketing activities using sugar. So if there are any questions that you guys have throughout today's presentation, put them in the chat box. I'll be monitoring those as we come in. If you've got a question about Act On or about sugar that's not related to anything that we're talking about, that's cool too. We'll try to get to those as we go throughout the webinar today. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jake. Take it away, man.
Thanks, Jesse. So thanks everyone for joining. Like Jesse said, as questions come up, feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll try to answer them as best we can. And then we'll pass it over to Scott. What I'm going to focus on now is just some of the newer both enhancements and then also the plugins, specifically Hint and the customer journey as it relates to sugar. So we'll go ahead and just get started. What you're seeing now, and just so you can see my screen, okay?
Yeah.
Got it. So this is the dashboard component of Sugar. So in one of the more recent versions, I believe it was 7.10, what they've added is a dashboard manager. So this actually allows you to create dashboards and assign them to particular people or teams or roles. So you can set up a specific dashboard for them, and then basically, they can favorite it or default it, and then automatically will go in as their default dashboard. So that's one of the newer features with Sugar. Before, you would have to, log into that individual user's dashboard and, go ahead and create it manually. So that's a pretty cool new feature. Another one that Sugar has added that's been requested for quite a while is drill through on dashboards. So for example, if you were looking at this report here and you see that these are opportunities segmented by the individual users, if you wanted to drill into a particular stage, you can see here's all the opportunities in a needs analysis stage. You can click on it and then it'll pull up all of those opportunities that match that specific section of that chart. And then you could be able to drill into them and then see the details of that opportunity as well. So it's something that's been requested for quite some time that some other CRMs have had in, and Sugar brought it in, I believe, in 7.10 or 8.0 for on-premise customers. You also have the ability to view the report directly from that configure button right there. So you can drill into it and then it loads the actual report, and then you can see the details around the whole report and all the different groupings directly just from that dashboard there. So that's some of the enhancements with the dashboard component of Sugar. And again, like it always has been, it's all drag and drop. So if you want to set up different columns, you drag it around based on where you visually want to see everything, you could set that up. What we're looking at now here is the leads component of Sugar. So one of the things that Sugar has added recently, and they've added enhancements to it with additional data, is their product called Hint. So what Hint is it's a $15 per user per month add-on that basically allows you to import data from outside sources. So what you see here is here's someone that's inside of Sugar, but you see here's all this data that's not inside of Sugar. You can either import it all just by clicking on this button, or you can selectively decide what you want to import just by going through it one by one. So if there was something in here that you didn't think was accurate, or maybe it was outdated, you could just go ahead and start to import the individual records into the specific fields individually. If all the data was correct, you could just go up here to the top and import everything. And this will import it into all these fields directly in this hint dashlet are all existed in Sugar, and it just auto-populates all of that data for you to report on or segment on for marketing, that sort of thing as well. Hint can also work at the contact level. So it's not necessarily just for sales. You could also use Hint for, if someone reaches out with a bunch of support inquiries and you don't have a lot of information on that individual contact, you can use Hint to import that data on support requests as well. And it's a very common use case because when support requests are typically submitted, all you typically have is a phone number and an email address, and so you have the ability to pull in all this extraneous data as well. So that's a little bit on Hint. If you are creating a record, it'll work in real time. So as you're typing in the information, it'll start to pull up all that individual's contact information right here. So what you can do then is, while you're creating the lead record or the contact record, you just go ahead and click on the button, and it's going to automatically put in the title, the website, things like that as well. And then you see here's a sub panel that has all the Hint specific data here. And it's pretty darn accurate. I got my BS in marketing from CSUN. I did go to Pasadena City College as well. So it's pretty up to date and pretty accurate with good information. So that's the Hint plugin. Next, I was going to go and highlight the customer journey. So this is an account. This is a customer view here. And then right below it here is a customer journey. So what the customer journey is, and we'll go into the back end in a little bit. So what the customer journey is it allows you to set up different templates for different types of processes. So as you can see here, this is one that's for account planning. So the way that the customer journeys work is that there are process templates, and these templates have what they call stages. So here you have Q1, Q2, Q3, and then Q4. And within those, you have subsequent, tasks or calls or things that need to happen within those certain time frames. So here's everything that needs to happen within Q1. Here's everything that needs to happen within Q2, Q3, and Q4. These are templates, but you can also add stuff to them as well. So if you wanted to, if you have a process template that you typically follow, but there's some deviation from time to time, you can create ad hoc tasks or meetings or things like that in a customer journey as well. So this could be used for templates, but then it can also be expanded, and you can add different elements to the templates that you use as well. The way that the journey works in terms of, you will be able to see progress throughout an individual customer journey, but also at an aggregate level. So you can see, what percentage completion all of your, customer journeys are. You can see where they are in their particular stage, that sort of thing as well. So it's very straightforward. When you are configuring the customer journey, there are a bunch of different templates that you can use, and you can also create your own. So this is the one that I just showed you here. So basically, the way that this works is it allows you to determine, when it's going to be due based on when the customer journey is started. It could be either from when the customer journey was created, from the days from when the stage, that's the high level Q1 was started, or days from previously activity completion, which in this case, it's the first one, so you wouldn't use it for that. But then you could also go to subsequent tasks and say, okay, this one needs to be done 3 days from when the stage starts, or we need it done 2 days after the previous activity is completed. So there's some flexibility around that in terms of how you want due dates to be controlled. So if the first task within the customer journey is delayed by a week because of some reason, you wouldn't necessarily want all of these dates defined, because then you're having to play catch up and rush to meet certain process completions. So that's just a little bit about the customer journey and the different templates that you can use. This is accessible through all of the different modules inside of Sugar. And sorry, one second.
Got a couple of questions on customer journey, Jake.
Okay. We can go ahead and take those.
Sure, yeah. So the questions are, is the customer journey an add-on feature, and does it work with Sugar Professional?
That's a good question. So it is an add-on. It's $12 per user per month. It can work with Professional. The one thing that it doesn't, that you would want it to be integrated with Enterprise with, is that if you look at the customer journey templates, they don't do assignments or alerts. So if you come in here to an individual individual task or something that's in the customer journey, it wouldn't do assignments for you. So you would have to, if you're with Professional and you didn't have the advanced workflow tool, you would need to manually do the assignments. So what I would say is, if one person is going to own the journey and they're going to manually put in due dates and manually put in the assigned users, then it could definitely work with Pro. The downside of Pro is the journey doesn't have reminders or user assignments built in. So if you're in a more complex process where a lot of people get involved and you need due date reminders and escalations and things like that, and that's where something like the advanced workflow tool would come in, because this has things like, okay, if a task is not completed 2 days after it's due, escalate it and get approval, or reroute the task and things like that. So there's more flexibility in combination with the customer journey and the advanced workflow. But if it's one person that's going to control the process and manually do assignments and things like that, then it can definitely work with Pro. Does that help?
Yeah, and then there was a follow-up on that. Can the task be linked to customer key performance indicators?
We would need to know about what type of KPIs you're tracking. Probably need to know a little bit more details around that and how you guys are using Sugar. But in theory, it could be, we would just probably need to have a conversation about that.
All right, great, thanks. That's all for now.
Okay. So the other thing I just wanted to touch on briefly before we get into the Act Done component, so Sugar's added both the product catalog dashlet to both quotes and opportunities. So quotes is pretty obvious. You can very easily add products to quotes just by clicking on the particular product category and then drilling into the particular item. So that's pretty cool. And then you can just change the quantities if you need to. You can add in the discount, that sort of thing as well. So it's a pretty cool feature that Sugar adds. It makes doing quotes a lot simpler. It's just the one thing to keep into consideration is that if you're going to utilize this, you'll start to have to use product categories, because that's what the folder structure is based off of. And if you have thousands of line items and things like that, you'd want to use that anyway, because it allows it to be more consolidated and consistent and easier to find. You could also search the product catalog. So if I wanted to search for a particular gadget or something like that, you could use the search bar as well. So if you're familiar with the naming of all the different products and things like that, the service products or item lists, then you could also search it directly through here as well. but you also have the ability to go into, from a category standpoint, as you can see here, you can also have subcategories, and then you can drill into the particular item directly from here. So it's a pretty cool feature. It's starting to get adoption, at least by a lot of our clients. But like I said, some of our clients hadn't set up their items in a structured manner like this. So you may want to look into sort of restructuring the product catalogs if you're not using the native category components of the item lists in Sugar. And that's really all I had for for what's new. Was there a question, Jesse?
No other questions at this time. If anything does come up, I'll be sure to insert those at a reasonable time.
Okay. The only other thing is to mention that we're probably going to do a separate webinar on this altogether. But the Gdpr Compliance is now up and running in Sugar 8.0, and we can talk to you guys about that offline as well. It's there's some data privacy modules and things like that for deleting data that are in line with all of the new laws coming from GDPR. Just wanted to mention that. I will go ahead and stop showing my screen so we can pass it over to Scott.
Perfect, Jake. Good stuff. Good stuff. I will still go back to the point of hint and just say that is so incredibly powerful. It's such a great feature because you can start pivoting off of all those different data points in there. So for the marketing side, if you're working a specific vertical or something like that, like banking, and you've been able to identify with hint all these different people within a financial vertical, man, you can just create a segment over in Sugar and push it into Act-On and work on that immediately and actively. So really, really good stuff in Sugar. So and to kind of dovetail on what you were talking about with GDPR earlier, Jake, there just a second ago, Act-On actually has a module in it now too that will help assist with GDPR. It's certainly something that is top of mind for a lot of folks, and right up until last week when that thing launched, I think we were averaging about 20 to 25 calls a day leading up to it that were related specifically to what do I need to do with GDPR? What are my responsibilities? So it's a hot topic, and Sugar has a great module in there as well. So jumping over into the Act-On side and making sure that you can see my screen that I'm showing out. This is the Act-On side of what we'd look at within Sugar. So if you can see that, Jake or Jesse, let me know, and we'll go on from there.
Yep.
Perfect. So cool thing with Act-On and Sugar, it is a native connection, and it's what we call a bi-directional sync. So what that means for you is whatever happens in Sugar is moved over into Act-On from a marketing standpoint, and vice versa. So whatever marketing does will automatically be pushed over into Sugar. So doesn't have to have any great long configuration because it is a native integration. And just so you know too, when Sugar 8.0 released, Act-On was already certified for 8.0. So we were able to seamlessly roll into 8.0 without any trouble at all. But let's take a look here. So some of the cool things that happen within Act-On that's really good that happens over in Sugar. One of the first things I really love to highlight is the website Prospector. What that's doing is it's starting to capture within your website, where are people visiting? What are they doing, and how are they interacting with you? And what's great is even when they're anonymous, what we've done is we've cookied them. So we did a reverse IP lookup. We know where they came from. And this is great information to have because you can start seeing, where are people coming into you from? You can start drilling into, if we're going to California, for example, where are all they coming from? Great, I got a bunch of people coming in from Los Angeles, Sacramento. If you're geographically based, that's something that's really helpful to start understanding is how are people, where are they coming in to find you? Sources, they're coming in through search. You can drill into this a little bit more. They're coming into you from Google, from Bing. Always interesting to see Bing still showing up. If you've got a social presence, are they discovering you through this? And to touch real briefly just on social, it is becoming much more relevant as a means of communication and updates and things like that. So if you don't have a social policy or a social idea, and again, this goes just beyond Twitter, but you look at your LinkedIn, your Facebook, and YouTube videos, things like that. You should be really, really rapidly talking to the folks at Faye about, what is this social piece that I need to be thinking about? Because I'll guarantee you, your competition is doing it, and it's something to be really, really conscious of. So even though we're capturing stuff that we see coming in that's anonymous, I love the fact that Adobe Systems is always on our website. They are never going to buy from us because they're a competitor, but we can start seeing certain things. And what we're seeing is very unique visitors. So we can see that 69 different people have hit the Acton website, and we are tracking them to see where they go. Ideally, what you want to do is get those over into what are known prospects. And a known prospect, all that is you've emailed them something, or they filled out a gated form on your website. Maybe they wanted to get a white paper from you, or they wanted a pricing quote from you. Even better, there's a great quote module now within Sugar that you can leverage as well. But basically, they've self-identified. They've raised their hands enough to be able to say, okay, now I know who this person is. So if we take a look at Will Taylor here, for example, we've been tracking Will, and what we're able to see now is, where has Will been on our website? You can drill into this, and this is stuff that's available for the salespeople as well. And I'll show that in a minute, because this is hugely, hugely valuable for them. Because what happens is when they make their calls, and if they're salespeople on the phone, if you make your calls, knowing exactly where and what the prospect or your lead or your customer has been looking at, it makes your conversations with them much, much more strategic, because you do know exactly where they've been. But you can go in and start seeing as well, hey, what type of mailings have they been doing? Are they interacting with them? And even from the standpoint of, as great as you guys are in marketing, sometimes I don't always know exactly what the email was. Well, what's fantastic is you can actually ping right into it and see, oh, okay, this is the specific email that was sent out. So you've got an idea of what has been sent out from marketing on your behalf. Another little piece over here is this timeline view. And what this is doing is it's just taking a view of, on a monthly basis, and however far back you want to go, how have they really been interacting with us? So I can see in May, okay, this is looking good. Oh, okay, April, same thing. This is a person that is staying really engaged with us. What's great about the integration between Acton and Sugar is this just doesn't live here. It actually moves right over into Sugar. So I've got this set up on the dashlets. So there's a few things in here to take a look at. Hot prospects. What this is just simply that their lead score. And if you're not familiar with lead scoring, it's okay. I'll put it just real simply for you. A lead score is just assigning value for activities, and they can be weighted. So for example, if for you getting somebody just sent an email is worth something, you can start tracking it that way. You can start seeing here, let me jump back over onto the Acton side, for example. You can start seeing opened a message. Well, that's worth a point for us. They submitted a form. Well, that's worth 5 because that's a little more valuable. You can start seeing here, registered for a webinar or attended a webinar, something like you all have done today. Well, for us, we consider that a higher value asset. And what happens is that's where this idea of a lead score comes from. Well, hot prospects, what that actually is doing is it's alerting and showing the sales team when they log into their Sugar instance, who is my hot prospect? Who are the people that have really changed the most within the last week or even the last day if you want to set it up that way. Now, there's lots of options you can get into just by configuring this here. But, you can always go leads and contacts as well. So if you remember, we were looking at Will Taylor over here on the Acton side. Well, if we pop in here, you can see Will Taylor right here. I'm going to take a second and just jump over to show you this, because by clicking on this Acton history right here, you get all this stuff right here. And depending on how you want to view it, it's no big deal. But what's great is, okay, I can go ahead and see, I first saw him a number of, well over a year and a half ago, but I can also cramp it down just to see it exactly how I saw it over in the marketing side. So depending on the view that the sales rep wants to have, they can go in either way. They can also, one of the cool things here is they have their own little Acton website prospector. So they can set up alerts. So if they're targeting a specific company, or they've gone through and they've grabbed Hint and have brought that over and said, I want to focus specifically on this idea of account-based marketing. I want to focus on company. Some of the things that they can do, and I can actually just jump in real quick here into Acton and log into my account. And this is something that all the sales reps are going to have. Log in here. Yeah, see, even us, GDPR, it's a really hot topic, so we want to always focus on that. But jumping into this is something that the salespeople have a view as well. So they can go in and set up their own website prospector, and they can see, however they want to set it up. But what they could do as well is the idea of this website prospector alerts. And they can add an alert in. So alert me if the person or if somebody from the company, if you set it up, for example, a state or if a specific web page. I mean, a lot of our reps here at Acton set up if somebody hits our pricing page, they get an alert if it's in their territory. Or if they hit take a tour of Acton, they get an alert that somebody is checking out that specifically. And this is in near real time, hugely valuable to the sales team to know, hey, this person's actually on our website, and this company is taking a look at us. The great thing is if it's a person, I always get the question, how long do should I wait to call them? Well, I kind of use the same example of if you pour a cup of tea, you want to let that tea bag steep just a little bit. You're not going to just pour the hot water, drop the tea in and tea bag and pull it right out. Now, that being said, ideal time, probably within about 15 to 20 minutes of when you get the alert, because that's when that person is most engaged with you. So really cool feature. And again, this syncs all over into this right here, this all this information on this Acton history. Another feature that we have coming out that actually is in final beta right now, as we move along and we take a look at machine learning or AI, whatever phrase you want to use, what's great is for Acton, we're making this available to you. So what we're taking a look at, for example, in final beta is adaptive send times. I love the phrase that our CEO likes to use, that you put 6 marketing people in a room and ask them when the ideal time to send an email out, you'll probably get 8 to 10 different answers of when the best time to send an email is. And really the best time to send an email is when the person is going to be most likely to engage with you. So what Act-On is doing with our adaptive journeys piece and the adaptive send time is it's saying, take everything that you know already about this person. Are they consistently opening up an email at Wednesday at 2:30 in the afternoon? Well, when you do a campaign and individually you'll start capturing this person, the adaptive send time will say, send at the predicted best engagement time. And what that means is if you're sending an email to me, for example, and you start saying, you know, Scott does consistently open up his emails around 2:30 on Wednesdays. The adaptive send time, it's going to send, you know, roughly right around that time, probably an hour plus or minus of that time. But what's great is this is doing it automatically for you. You don't have to manually go in and do that and change it. So it's automatically going to say, you know, I've got in this segment that I'm sending to, I see that I've got Scott in here. I'm going to send based on the adaptive send time when the best predicted engagement time is for Scott. The rest of them can be sent out, you know, whenever time you want. You can go immediately. You can send it out at 10 o'clock on Tuesday in their specific time zone. But for me, you're sending me a very, very targeted message. And again, this is in final beta. We had to do some stuff over in EMEA first with GDPR and understanding how that was going to work with them. So it's one time that the folks over in Europe actually have led the way with us, getting this refined and ready to go. Now we're ready to roll it out in the US, and that should be out in Q3, which is just about a month away. Kind of a scary thought. We're going to be into July in about 31 days or so. Crazy that summer's right around the corner, but lots of good stuff happening as we come down the line with Act-On and Sugar, and that partnership is absolutely solid. And the relationship that Act-On has with Faye Business Systems Group is a very long time relationship. I think Jesse and I talk pretty much weekly, either through chat or phone calls. Jake's on the line with me and the whole team. So we've got a really, really good relationship with them. If there's any questions that you have about how Act-On can work within Sugar or just in general, I mean, Jesse, you're a power user of Act-On. You guys actually use Act-On for all your marketing efforts. He's a great person to reach out to and chat with. But if there's any questions that have come up in the chat or not, that's really what I wanted to just talk about right now. Real high level overview and the great connectors between Act-On and Sugar. There's a lot more underneath the hood of the car that we could go into in that engine, but for right now, just a real high overview.
Yeah, there was one question, Scott, on the dashboard in Sugar that shows the Act-On activity history. They wanted to know, do all Sugar users get to see that activity history even if they're not using Act-On?
So it's going to be a portion for sales users. So anybody that is assigned a sales user within Sugar will have this view for their contact specifically. So depending on how the instance is configured, for example, with an Act-On, we're set up geographically, and so when our RSMs log into their account, they can see specifically all of their leads and contacts and this Act-On activity history. Somebody from just like an executive or something, unless they have an actual sales license, they would not be able to see the Act-On activity. Hope that answers the question.
Yep, that does it. Thank you, Scott. And if there's any other questions that come up, like Scott said, we know a lot about Act-On as well, so send us an email at any time, and we'll help you out with that. That brings us to the end. We're going to do another one of these every few weeks throughout the summer, so be sure to keep an eye out for invites from us on future Sugar Boot Camps. So Scott, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Jake, thank you as well. Everyone, have a great rest of your week, and we hope to see you soon. Take care, everyone.